Hi, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us here at Bridge and the Gap. I am Bridget. I'm Jaleesa.
And I'm Jasmine.
Tonight's episode, we will be discussing healthcare inequalities and healthcare advocacy. 92% of all patients experience a positive impact on their health care when they are supported by an advocate. 98% of providers also report that having a healthcare advocate advocating for the patient is a better, well rounded healthcare experience. I would like to start off by saying that I have had to advocate for myself in the healthcare field several times. As some of you may know, I work in healthcare and I have been in healthcare now for almost 30 years. I can recall several times with different doctors and providers, I've had to advocate for myself. A lot of times, being African American, a lot of our issues are not well received by providers who do not look like us. When I have been able to, I have always leaned towards having a female physician because I feel like she understands my healthcare needs a little better. And more so than that, just really tried to find somebody that aligned with my ideas. It's okay to meet with your doctor or interview a doctor, I should say, when you're trying to pick a healthcare provider. It is okay to interview. And if you do not feel comfortable with that person, by all means, shop around until you find somebody that you are comfortable with. It is vital for your health, and it could be the difference between life and death. Having a physician who aligns with your beliefs and is very receptive when you go into the office making a complaint about this, that, or the other, that they take your healthcare concerns very seriously. Mm-hmm. I remember several years ago, I had an incident at the hospital and did not feel that I was treated as well as I should have been. And then to add insult to injury, when I got the bill, it was ridiculously high. So I actually called the billing department to complain about the bill. But then I also wrote to the hospital administration and complained. And to my surprise, the bill was like $900 and they wrote it off completely. So that is just one example of how you can advocate for yourself. Being in healthcare, I tend to know what's proper and what isn't proper. But if any time that you feel as though you are not being treated like you should be, you do have the right to complain.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that incident that happened, do you feel like that was due to your race? Do you feel like you're treated unfairly due to race, or like what do you attribute it to?
I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to my race. This particular hospital was notorious for having not so good reviews. Mm. And so, but it was a case of where they were in network with my healthcare provider. So I really had no choice other than to go to this particular hospital. If I had gone to another hospital, quite possibly the bill that I would have gotten would have been a whole lot larger. So I chose to go to this hospital, knowing that they had the reputation that they did. So I don't necessarily feel like it was attributed to my race. I just feel like overall, they just were not a good healthcare system.
I wonder how often that happens.
Right.
I'm sure it happens a lot. The good thing now, with today's healthcare, I know that I won't name the health insurance company that I have, but you can actually go onto the website and look up the doctor and see real time reviews from other patients as to what the doctor's bedside manner is, how soon they get you in, if there's a long wait, how empathetic that the physician is. And so I would recommend to anybody that's going to a new doctor to go online. And I'm sure each health insurance companies have this type of website where you can go online and look up the doctor and see, what other patients have said. You can go even further. There are websites that you can go to see if the doctor has had any type of disciplinary action against them in the last few years, because doctors can be disciplined depending on what the offense is. And I think there are so many times that they can be reported before I want to say, I can't think of the organization is right at the moment, but usually the state can take their license if the offense, once it is looked into and researched, is grave enough, their license can be taken.
That's actually really good and helpful information. And along the lines of that, Jaleesa, did you have any statistics or facts you wanted to share that may also be helpful for our viewers?
Yeah, so it's important to know that Black people are more likely than their white counterparts to have their limbs amputated due to diabetes complications. Compared with our white counterparts, Black persons and other minorities have lower levels of access to medical care in the United States. And then I also found that people of color have higher rates of diabetes, obesity, stroke, heart disease, and cancer. The risk of being diagnosed with diabetes as an African American is 77% higher than our white counterparts. And also Hispanics are 66% higher, or 66% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. Another thing that I found interesting, I know that we kind of somewhat try to stay away from political topics, but at the same time we also want to be aware of what's going on. And I know we had discussed the hearings with RFK, and he shared some ideologies, and it was stunning, because these are some things that I've heard, in Michigan as well as Florida, one of which being that Black people don't feel the same pain in which others do. So pain medication tends to be withheld from us, despite us really being in pain. And then I also found it interesting that he also shared, or the belief that we don't have to have the same vaccination schedules as everyone else, because our body regulates vaccinations differently. We're superheroes, or almost like,
which couldn't be further from the truth.
So with that being said, I thought about one time where I had to advocate for myself in the sense of being in pain. When shortly after I had Drew via emergency C-section, As you know, because it was not planned out and they had to hurry up and get him out, it was a lot, I don't want to say a lot more brutal. That's not really the word. It was just a lot more like intense. That was the best word. And I kept telling them while I was in the hospital that, hey, I'm in pain. And they ended up giving me a morphine drip. But it was only, and it was self-dispensing. I could do it like every 30 minutes or so. And because the pain was so intense, following it every 30 minutes was not getting it. I needed, something more. And so I actually, let them know, like, hey, my mom works in healthcare. I have some of the best health insurance money can buy. There is no reason why I should be laying here in agonizing pain. This is when they stopped taking babies out the room. So in addition to me being in pain, having to take care of Drew. And once I let them know, I dropped that ball like, hey, my mom works in healthcare. You don't want me to get my mom involved because it wouldn't be pretty. Then that's when, we need to take her seriously. And it's unfortunate because not everybody knows how to advocate, for themselves. Not everybody knows someone in health insurance. And I definitely want to hear some of your facts and statistics, and I definitely want us to share some more examples. But before you do, because it is not easy advocating for yourself when it comes to your medical care with healthcare, we will be sharing some ways to and best practices for advocating for yourself. So I'll be sure to do that in the end. So jumping back to you, Jasmine, do you have any interesting facts or statistics around healthcare and healthcare inequality?
Yeah, so something that you mentioned with RFK, with him saying that we're superhumans and we don't really need the same vaccination schedule as other races, it's kind of disheartening because already Black men are 75% less likely to have health insurance than white men. And I feel like someone who may not be educated may hear that and be like, oh, okay, well, more reason not to get it. That's one that I found that was really enlightening. And then 30% of all men, compared with 19% of all women, do not have a regular physician. So that kind of reminds me of what Mama was talking about, how with finding a physician, you can go on websites and, narrow down who you may want to go see based on their ratings already. So if that's something that you're afraid of, because you're like, well, I don't want to go to the wrong physician and spend all this money, Mama just shared a wonderful way on how you can possibly narrow down your list and find a good one. And then 1 in 5 Black women, so 21%, say they have been treated unfairly by a healthcare provider or staff due to their race and ethnicity, which is very unfortunate. And then lastly, 22% of Black women who have been pregnant or gave birth in the past 10 years say they were refused pain medication that they felt that they needed. So that's on the lines with what you experienced.
Right.
And thankfully you knew how to advocate for yourself. But yeah, it's sad that we still have to deal with that. And it makes me think about the time when I was getting ready to have the boys. I was very adamant that I wanted to have a natural birth and not do a C-section. And they just kept trying to push it because it was going to be the easiest route to go because Kenji was breech. And if you don't know what breech means, that's he was feet first. So they were not wanting to do the extra work of getting him out. But I was like, no, I feel like I can do it. I feel like, I'm ready. They're ready. I trust my body. And I will let y'all know if I feel uncomfortable or if like I feel like the pain is too much where I'm not going to be able to do it. Just go ahead and get them out. So yeah, that was a moment where I really had to advocate for myself that no, I don't want a C-section. And I did the research, and it was possible to give a natural birth with him being breached. So it's no, it's possible. Y'all can do it. So yeah.
And then sometimes it's a fact, a monetary factor, which is unfortunate too, because had they had to do the C-section, it
would have been more money.
Would have paid.
Oh
exactly.
yeah, they would have
much
been
more
reimbursed a lot more money. And twins too. Absolutely.
But you know what? So that leaves me, because both of you guys said something about, you can go online and research your providers. All right. So I'm going to start with Jasmine, and then Mama, I want you to follow up. So when it comes to choosing your physician, do you choose based off what they look like, their background, and their ratings, or what goes into how you decide to choose a provider? What techniques do you use?
So I first go on my health insurance website to see who's in network. And then I start Googling their names just to see what comes up. And so if they have less than 4 stars, they automatically out. I only want 4 or 5s. Then out of those, I'll read the comments to see if I can find like someone who has like a similar background as me. So I would do that, and I just narrow it down by what a lot of people say, and then I go off of years of experience. Not saying that somebody who's fresh out can't do a good job. It's just I would feel more comfortable with someone who had a few years of experience. I don't want them extremely up there in age, because I feel like sometimes people can get a little rigid and they don't really want to listen because they feel like they know it all, they just seen it all. So I usually try to look for someone who has about like 10 to 20 years of experience, because I feel like that's enough experience where they know something, but they're not too much where they're still open to learn.
Right.
I agree.
I love that. I really love that. And now, what about you, Mom?
So for me, I'll give you a good example. So when I first moved to the area, this was probably about 9 or 10 years ago. For whatever reason, I really wanted a African American doctor. Not to say that I wouldn't go to a doctor of a different race, because I have before. Matter of fact, the best doctor I ever had was Chinese, and she was beautiful, just Chinese lady, and a go-getter, spunky, just on top of her game. And so she was my physician for years. But when I left Virginia and moved to Florida, I had to find a new physician. So long story short, I met a young lady, and her doctor was an African American man, a younger man. I would say he's probably in his early 40s. And so she was like, "Oh, he's good, try him." Okay. Long story short, I think I was with him for 2.5, close to 3 years. And he literally was the worst doctor that I ever had. And the reason why I say he was the worst doctor that I ever had is because, in addition to him being a general practitioner, he had a side business where he did weight loss. And that part of the business was cash only. And I felt that, first of all, it was a conflict of interest, because how are you trying to encourage me to lose weight? You're getting paid from my healthcare provider. But on the other end of it, you have a self-funded program that you're running to get people to lose weight. So I just felt like it was a conflict of interest. And then I had a illness that could have been prevented if he would have stayed on top of things, and he didn't. And so because of that, I wound up having a illness that I shouldn't have never had. So when I say literally he was the worst one, and that right there kind of led me to really do more research. All kinfolk ain't skinfolk. So and
All
he
skinfolk ain't.
all skinfolk ain't kinfolk, and he he definitely wasn't. So
Actually makes me really mad too, because it's not that many.
No, it's not that many. It's not that many. And you would think with there not being that many in the field, that they would even just be even more serious about the health of all of their patients, but especially the ones that look like them, because we know how healthcare can be and the disparities in healthcare. So long story short, now I have a woman. My general practitioner is a woman, and she's she has a Caribbean descent. We're close in the same age, but I absolutely adore her, because no matter what I need or when I need it, she's always right there. And I can tell her what I'm feeling, or prime example, why we have to advocate and be aware. Anybody that's on cholesterol medication, there is, depending on the side effects, it can, Lipitor is one, I'll say, and this is well known. You can go out and Google this. In some African American patients, Lipitor has been known to cause a disorder where it will cause your lips to swell. And when I say, I mean, you can go online and look at the pictures. They are horrific, where people have had adverse reactions, African Americans, to Lipitor, and their lips swell like 5 or 6 times the size that your lips should be. And so I was taking one type of cholesterol medicine, but then I did some more research into it and found out that it was not really good for African Americans. So I went in and told her, like, hey, I don't want to take this anymore. I would prefer to take this, because it's a better, African Americans have a better success rate with this one versus that one. So she immediately changed my prescription. But those are the things that you want to be able to discuss comfortably with your doctor. And you can go out to, there are several websites. WebMD is a good one that you can go into anytime you're prescribed a medication. You can go in and look at the indications, which means what it helps, and the contraindications, which means things that say, like, you have diabetes and it's a certain type of medication that maybe this medication does not work well with a diabetes medication that you're on. That would be a contraindication. And so you really want to look into that. It's very important that the effects that the medication will have, the possible negative side effects. You can always ask your pharmacist. Every pharmacist I've ever had has been really nice. And when you go to get the prescription, they'll ask you, do you have any questions or concerns or whatever? And that is a good time to say, like, hey, what are some of the possible side effects I need to look out for? I'm sitting here thinking about another time that I had an issue. I am allergic to naproxen, otherwise known as the lead. I did not know that. And so my doctor in Virginia, Dr. Chin, had prescribed, I was having really, really bad headaches, and she prescribed the medicine. And so I immediately got the medication, came home and took it, and had a horrible reaction to it where anaphylaxis shock, which means my throat was swelling, my tongue was swelling, and so it was. I had to call like the poison hotline, and again, you can do things like this. I actually called the manufacturer of Aleve to tell them like, hey, I had a really, really bad side effect and this is what happened, which is good to do. It's not a bad thing. It's really good to do because they need to know these things. Right. This is how they know, how many patients had bad reactions. So I actually called. They apologized all over the place. They took a ton of information. They also sent me $100 worth of coupons for other medication that they had, which I thought was really nice. But that's another way that you can advocate for yourself too, doing things like that. But but going back to your original question, I'm like Jasmine. I really try to find out as much information as I can about a doctor before I decide, like, hey, this is the one I'm gonna stick with.
And see, with me, by me having that bariatric surgery, a lot of medication that I take is a lot of the medication I have to take cannot be fat soluble because my body does not absorb fat like it once did. So I don't absorb medications like I once did. And I had an issue with that almost cost me my life because I was going to a provider who I felt like, a general physician, I felt like could take care of me. She had wonderful ratings. Where I dropped the ball as a patient and with my healthcare is I should have looked into her history with bariatric patients because based off the medication she was prescribing me, none of them worked. And she was giving me prescriptions like I had the stomach of a normal patient. And so I vowed to myself that going forward, when it comes to my doctors, one of them being the doctor that did my surgery, which I absolutely love, his bedside manner is phenomenal. Him, I will always go to him because, of course, he's done this for over 30 years, and he's seen all kinds of complications. I'm sure not everyone in the book, but he's seen complications. So I literally trust him with my life. And then in addition to that, when it comes to my physicians, I am like you guys. I actually prefer Black female physicians especially when it comes to my like gynecological care. And it's not to say isn't anything wrong with, doctors of different races. I've had doctors of different races, but I will say I'm very selective when it comes. I always request women. I had a man one time and it was a horrible experience, not because he made it intentionally that way, but for example, I know that certain devices are better on me than others. And I was told, ask for this because it'll make the experience better. Well, he did what he wanted to, and I feel like that was again based off stereotypes and race. And it was horrible. It was painful. And then he was rough. It was just not a good that. I was like, never again. So I've since had women of different races, be my gynecologist, and it's been, fairly good experiences. I feel like they've listened to me and everything. But my most thorough exams have come from women that look like me. And I don't think it's necessarily just intentional. I just feel like I feel like it's a lot of subconscious, it's done subconsciously. Yeah. So
What one thing I would say is like I gotta go with mama on the, sometimes skin folk ain't kin folk. Because I went that route with Kay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of allergies. So the allergist that we went with was a Black woman, and I was like, oh, okay, she gonna, but horrible experience because I was trying to tell her that Kay was allergic to dairy, but because Kay wasn't having like the immediate reactions that you typically have with allergy reactions, she was like, no, it's no way she has an allergy, just keep giving her dairy. And I'm like, there's something there, like, because her skin breaks out, this, that, and the third. She was very adamant that she did not have a dairy allergy. So I actually had to get her seen again. And the other allergist did confirm that she did not have a dairy allergy, but what it was is that the dairy triggers her eczema, and that the eczema triggers her asthma. That is why we usually end up in the hospital whenever she has dairy. So I felt like the other provider took the time to like really listen and say, okay, well, maybe it's not an allergy, but let's figure out what it is. And the other one just completely writing it off. And well, no, she's not having the typical reaction. So it's not allergy, just keep giving her dairy. But yeah, sometimes, unfortunately, who look like us
is not always for us.
No, and something else that I wanted to touch on with that too is I've come to realize, especially because you do only get one life. I have one time to tell a physician something that I'm experiencing, because again, I live with me every day. And I'm telling you, like, it's something not right, it's something wrong, and they write it off. It's time to get another physician, because you only get one life, and if I tell you something and you write me off and it end up costing me my life, then in the end it's like, oops, sorry.
Like you say, you can't get another life.
Yeah. So, and that's why people shouldn't feel bad about sticking up for themselves and advocating for themselves, especially because you have to live with you every day.
Yes. And it's something that just popped in my mind that, you know what, this might actually help somebody. If they look like us, but they got a bad wig, they really poor. Because now that I think about it, she had she had one of those, like, she don't date her race type of wig. One of those wigs. And now that I think about it, when I was pregnant with Kay, my OBGYN at the time, she also was a Black woman, but she too had a bad wig. And I did not have a great experience with her. And it was like, the experience was so bad that when I felt like my water, when my water did break, instead of going to the hospital I was supposed to go to, I went to a completely different hospital and had Kay at a different hospital with staff I did not know, didn't meet, anything like that. And so when I did my 6-week checkup with her, she was so angry that I did not come to her. And it's like, I didn't feel comfortable because
Yeah. But you know what? She can be angry all she wants. It's about your ease and peace of mind. It's not about what they think
at all.
That's funny that you say that about the bad wig, because I can think about a couple of physicians on TV that I've often wondered about. Same thing, wig, horrible. But
I think there's a correlation there.
Yeah, it probably is. I'm sure it is, especially when you said didn't really identify with, I'm sure. But one thing I will say is another thing that's very important too. When you go to the doctor, pay attention to how they interact with you. Do they, like, typically when I go to the doctor, her medical assistant will come get me, greet me, take me back to the room. The medical assistant will sit and ask me, why I'm coming in. Do I have any concerns? Anything special that I want the doctor to know? She will take my blood pressure, take my temperature, and then she'll leave out the room and she'll go get my doctor. So I think the most I've ever had to wait was like 20 minutes, and that's unusual because normally 10 minutes later she's in the room. So my doctor comes in the room. First thing she'll ask me is how I'm doing. Like I said, we're very close in age. She'll, are you dating anybody? We kind of laugh about that a little bit. That's an inside joke. And then, we'll kind of like get into why I'm there and what's going on, and she'll proceed to check me out. But never once have I ever gone to her and I felt rushed. She will sit down, she will have a conversation with me. She is genuinely concerned about how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, even mentally. Now I don't know about you all, but I've noticed, especially I'm gonna say in the past 2 years going to the doctor, they will do a depression and an anxiety assessment on you, screening on you to see how you are mentally. So that's something that I don't remember them ever doing before. So it must be something new in the industry, which I appreciate, because you never know. You could be talking to a patient that's like suicidal and never even know it. So I'm glad that they do that. But you should feel like you are heard. You should feel that they are not rushing. I'm not saying they're supposed to spend all day with you because, of course, they have other patients that they have to see. But never should you feel rushed or feel like you are inconveniencing them by being there. They are there to serve you. And if you feel that way, you need to find another doctor. If you feel like they're not listening to your concerns, or they're trying to just in any way push something on you, like you said, Jasmine, you didn't feel comfortable with having a C-section, you wanted a natural birth. Had they kept pushing, it was good that they listened to you, right? Because a lot of doctors don't. Like you said, I've been with this body all this time. I know when something is not right, and I don't want you to tell me, oh, it's all in your head or something like that, because for years doctors did that. I would say just in the last probably 20 to 30 years have women's health care kind of changed, because there was a time, especially not having a lot of female doctors, when women would go to a male doctor, especially prime example, menopause. Menopause is a beast. It can manifest in different ways. And a lot of times back in the day, you would go and women would complain about this or that, and they would, oh, it's all in your head, and brush it off. It's just in your head. It's not really happening. Well, now with modern medicine, things have changed, and they realize that yes, we do have hot flashes, and you burning up just out of the blue, or hair loss is another one. Just all sorts of things. Weight gain, weight loss, insomnia. You cannot sleep at night. I forgot about that. That's a huge one. Having
sweats. I've heard people talk about
having a foggy brain, not being able to remember, or ADHD, you cannot concentrate. You're all over the place. All these
and mood swings.
And mood swings is huge. All these can manifest as menopause, and you definitely want your concerns to be taken seriously, no matter what it is. If you get a splinter in your finger, you want to be taken seriously. So,
and something else that I thought about. So with Jasmine advocating for Kay, because when you have to advocate for your child, not only are you advocating for your child, but your child being an extension of you, you are advocating for yourself. And that brings me to Drew with his Kawasaki's disease. So my son, Drew, when he was 2, started exhibiting symptoms where he just seemed like he was uncomfortable and he was in pain and he was whining and crying and he really didn't want to do anything, which I know my child, this is not like him. So I took him to the emergency room to be seen. They told me that it was just a cold, to lay him down, give it a day or 2, he will be all right. Oh, okay, I'm not a doctor. This is my first child. You know what? I'm do what you told me to. I'm gonna take him home and lay him down. Well, he just didn't quite look right to me. So I took him to a different emergency room. Hey, I think it's something wrong with my son. I don't know what it is. They're saying it's a cold, but he just is not acting like it's a cold. I need someone to take a look at. Oh, Miss Peters, it's pneumonia. He has pneumonia. Just take him home, give him a little Motrin to break the fever. That was nothing. He had a really, really high fever. And I'll never forget I brought him home. The next day I had to be to work. I went to his room in the morning. I ran to mama and I said, I'm going back to the emergency room. I said, because the way that he was breathing, it was so shallow. And he was looking at me like, Mom, like help. And I was like, I ran to mama. I was like, you know what? I'm taking him back to emergency. And she was like, girl, you're making another bill. And I'm like, it's something wrong. I'm like I told her, I said, come look at him. And she ran and she looked at, she's like, oh no, you need to take him. I ran him into that emergency room. Like, is something wrong with my son? And he was in respiratory distress. They ran him to the back, got him hooked up to oxygen, took his clothes off, and I was like, this is why I knew it was something wrong. I'm like, I felt like y'all were not hearing me. It's a good thing you brought him back when you did, because now we got to rush him to ICU. So it turned into something else. And with Kawasaki's disease, it's extremely rare, but in African American kids, it's even more rare. But it wasn't even, and he literally had all but 2 symptoms. And because he didn't have that third one.
And I believe because he was African American, and it's extremely rare. I want to say it's 2% is something that's astronomically rare in African Americans, because Kawasaki's disease, they find that in people with Jewish descent.
Japanese too.
Yeah, Japanese too. Japanese and I think Jewish descent.
And so, but I was thankful, and I know I got on those people's nerves. I know that they got tired of looking at me. I know, I came across angry and aggressive, but at this point, because I knew it was something going on, seriously, I didn't care. And that third time got me what I needed, and ultimately got him the help that he needed. And from that moment forward, I've always been outspoken and an advocate for myself, but it's totally different, with my kids. And because I am such an advocate when it comes to their healthcare, I feel like they receive really adequate and great healthcare. So in the end, it gives me peace of mind. So it's like a cycle, if you will.
Well, the one thing I'm gonna say about that, the one thing that's really disturbing to me about your story is that I think about all of the young mothers out there who are not familiar with navigating the healthcare system and how easily Another child could have gone and they told that mother exactly what they told you, and she went home and did exactly what they told her to do.
Mhm.
Only the next day to come in that room and find the baby was gone. You know, all because she didn't, you know, she was listening to quote unquote medical advice that was given to her.
Right.
Which again, this is why we keep stressing how important it is. If something does not feel right, I feel like every real mother has an instinct. And if your instinct is telling you that something is not right with your child, please, please, please do not stop until you get the answers that you need. Another thing that's a little bit off topic, but that's concerning, now I'm thinking about it, is quite possibly, it's a good possibility that a lot of Americans are going to lose their health insurance via from Medicaid. And we don't know what that's going to look like.
If it happens.
If it happens. We don't know.
If it's allowed to happen.
If it's allowed to happen, we don't know what that's going to look like. But again, if you don't feel good, you know it's something wrong. Don't stop trying to get help because help is out there. And another thing, a hospital, I don't care if you don't have insurance, they have to treat you. They cannot tell you, Mr. Brown, you don't have any insurance, so we can't see you. By law, they have to treat you.
Now, Jaleesa, did you want to share some tips on how they can advocate for themselves?
Absolutely. And look, our audience, forgive me because these aren't memorized, but every single step is so important. And this is the best order to advocate for yourself. So these are the key steps. We have do your research, which entails understand your condition, potential treatment options, and relevant medical terminology to have informed discussions with your doctors and primary care physicians. Make a list of concerns. Write down questions and concerns you have before your appointment to ensure you address everything. Be specific. Clearly describe your symptoms, including their severity, the duration, and any triggers. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions about your diagnosis, treatment plan, potential side effects, and any uncertainties you have. Take notes. This is one of the most important things you can do. Jot down key information provided by your doctor during the consultation for future reference. Bring support, which also helps tremendously. If needed, ask a trusted family member or friend to accompany you to appointments to help you remember information and advocate on your behalf, especially if there are loved ones that you interact with and they've noticed differences or changes and anything going on with you, they can also back you up. Or if it's something that you forget to mention and they, they've noticed, they, are able to share with your doctor. Speak up. If you disagree with the treatment plan or have concerns, politely voice your opinions and ask for explanations. Consider a second opinion. If you are unsure about a diagnosis or treatment options, seek a second opinion from another healthcare professional. Know your rights. Be aware of your patient rights, including access to medical records and the ability to request a second opinion. And lastly, find the right doctor. Look for a healthcare provider who listens to your concerns, respects your inputs and opinions, and collaborates with you on your perfect treatment plans. I think that's sound. I feel like we touched on all of it.
Yeah, we did. We touched on all of it. Yeah, it's funny that everything we touched on is exactly what you should be doing to advocate for yourself. Another thing I wanted to mention, I know with hospitals, especially, anytime you are hospitalized, every hospital has a social worker or two. If you don't understand something or you don't feel like you are getting the help that you need while being hospitalized, you can always ask for the hospital social worker. And normally they will come up and talk to you, discuss anything with you. If you have to, I know this is an instance where I've seen them step in when my mother was in and out of the hospital. Anytime you have to leave the hospital and go to like a rehab, for example, like if you were to break your leg or something like that, and they send you to rehab, normally the hospital social worker is the one that handles that type of stuff. But like I said, she would be the one to advocate for you, and some hospitals actually have an advocacy team, which again, a lot of patients don't know about this, but they do have hospital advocates, which this patient will, come in. I mean, I'm sorry, the advocate will come in, sit down, help you with any concerns, if need be, talk to the doctors, kind of break it down. If it's something that you don't understand, the advocate can break it down for you. And you got that person right there with you to help you through the process. So that's something that I know a lot of people don't know about the hospital advocates. So.
And then really quick, I wanted to touch on one other thing. And that is, please go through and from time to time access your medical records, especially because I'm going to use myself as an example. While trying to get cleared for bariatric surgery, one of the stipulations for that is that I couldn't smoke. I could not be a smoker. In addition to that, is I pay lower premiums with my insurance company because I'm not a smoker. I happened to go to a hospital that didn't have the best reviews, which is another thing. It's okay to select providers based off of hospital ratings too. But anyway, in an emergency situation, I went to a hospital that didn't have the best reviews. I let them know that I thought I had COVID because I was experiencing some breathing issues, only to later find out that they had put that I was suffering from COPD due to chronic smoking, which not only could have canceled my surgery, but also got me in trouble with my health insurance company. So I had to basically call the head of patient relations at the hospital to let them know, hey, this misinformation was placed in my chart and I want it removed. They printed out literally all of my, medical history from the time I was there in that emergency room and had me go through and highlight everything that was false. And within a week's time, they had all of the misinformation that they had input into my charts removed, because that can definitely affect your healthcare as well, especially if you need things like organs or infusions or any kind of transplant. It, based off what's placed in your chart, can potentially get you kicked off of a list and you have no idea why it was placed there. Just if you can, every time you go to the doctor, try to access your medical records just to make sure there was no misinformation placed in there as well.
Yeah, it's critical. Another thing I'd like to point out too along those lines, depending on what's in your medical records, if you go to get life insurance, depending on which diagnoses you have, it depends whether or not you can even get life insurance. And if you can, it may be your premiums may be extremely high because of these certain diagnoses. So that's another reason too why it's critical that you always check your medical records and make sure that your medical records are indeed, what you have been diagnosed. This is what's in your medical records. With that COPD, that could have cost you, stopped you from getting healthcare insurance. I mean, not healthcare insurance, but life insurance. Not acute, what do they call those type of diseases?
Chronic?
A chronic disease like that could have stopped you from getting it. So that's why it's important. I also happen to be a veteran, and we have our medical records online, and every time I go see one of my VA doctors, I always go back in and look to see what was placed in my chart, because again, it's important. One problem that I had early on when I first started going, somewhere along the way they put I was a male in my chart. So I literally had to jump through hoops. I think I had to provide. It's crazy because all of these records they had on me from when I was in service.
And had babies.
Yet somebody put, by accident, I'm sure, that I was a male. So I want to say I had to show like my driver's license or my birth certificate or something I had to do to prove that, yes, I am a female, biological. I have always been a female. So it's important, and mistakes happen. I'm not saying that these things, somebody did them on purpose. I'm sure it was an accident, but that's why you always want to check your medical record.
I like that. Yeah. Now, just real quick for our audience member who may not have health insurance, with you being in healthcare, are there any tips you could share with them on what to look for when picking a policy or things to consider? Because I know it's different for everybody.
It is different for everybody. So the great thing now is that we have the ACA, which is otherwise known as Obamacare. And from what I understand, you can go online. It's called the Market Exchange, and pick a policy. And I don't know for sure, but I believe that you can almost like a menu. If you know in the future you want to have a baby, maybe you pick a policy that has maternity care. If you are an extremely healthy person, but maybe you just want preventative care, which means you go to the doctor to get a pap smear or, a mammogram or something like that. Maybe you can pick a policy along those lines. So that's a good thing that you can do. Another thing is if you just do not have insurance, you cannot afford it. Again, like I said, no hospital can turn you away. There are some cash doctors which their rates are lower for patients who don't have insurance and can pay. So you can look for one of those type of doctors. The care is just as good. It's just that they have,
I seen one with a subscription service.
Yeah. Their doctors are doing that now, have subscription services. Maybe you pay $100 a month and you get up to like 6 visits a month or something like that. It just depends. You have to look into it. Another thing, if for some reason you have to go to the emergency room, don't worry about the bill. On the back end of it, hospitals have something called charity care. That's the name of it, unfortunately, but they will write off the bill in some cases. In some cases, they'll allow you to make payments. I think all hospitals will allow you to set up payment arrangements. On the front end of it, there are hospitals now who are putting their fees online so that you will know ahead of time what different things will cost, so you can do a cost comparison. So there are a number of things out there at your disposal if you unfortunately don't have health insurance. Don't let it stop you. Recently, a friend of Jaleesa's, this is another instance I just thought about. Her mother-in-law had cancer. And so the mother-in-law was a teacher. And I want to say what she was off for the summer, or it was something to where she couldn't work.
Wow.
And so the mother-in-law was concerned about that and bills were piling up. And so I suggested that, she look online because there are foundations that are out there for cancer patients. Like if you're having a hard time paying your bills, you can get like almost like a scholarship or something like that, where they will pay your bills for a month or something like that. So it's different things out there. Help is out there. I think a lot of times people don't know that help is out there, but there are resources out there that can help you if you need different things. Another thing along those lines, at certain times of the year, I know that in the month of October, usually, there are certain organizations that try to make sure that if you need a mammogram, you can get a free mammogram. You can get a free pap smear. So just different things like this. Same thing with the dentist. There are cash dentist offices if you need a teeth cleaning or something like that, something simple. You can go and get this service, for little or nothing. So help is out there. You just have to look for it.
And I'm glad that you mentioned dental care, because a lot of times dental health can indicate, they can be indicators of other issues that are going on with the body. So that dental care is just as important as health care, other physical health care. Yeah.
No, I like that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Jaleesa, is there anything you had to add?
No, that was perfect. Look, y'all provided some phenomenal information tonight.
Thank
But
you.
I feel like I learned some things.
A good episode, so thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you are so welcome.
Look, thank you. Look, advocating for yourself. You were serious about that natural birth.
I was. But no, I do want to say thank you to our subscribers. So thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate each and every one of you.
Yes, we do. And if you haven't yet already subscribed, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. If you have any ways that you have to advocate for yourself, please do share it down in the comment section down below. We would love to hear it. And I do want to just also remind our subscribers, our family that's with us, that we will not have a live episode on this Thursday. Jaleesa is doing her course this week and next week. So yay.
Yay.
Shout out to you. So our next episode will be on Monday, March 3rd. And we typically do our serious topics on Monday, but that will be a special one where we have a fun topic. So we will be talking about our favorite and best remember when moments.
I'm looking forward to that.
So please do come join us on March 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so we can laugh and have some fun together. But if there is nothing else that the ladies have,
I don't have anything else. I wish everybody good luck and good health.
Yes. So to close out, I do have a quote. It's very short and sweet. It's from the Roman poet Virgil. And he said, "The greatest wealth is health."
Yes. Spot on.
Health is wealth.
Yeah.
Is wealth. So make sure y'all taking care of yourselves. But we would like to say good night, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's episode.
Bye.